My ex's closest friend conspired to ruin us, and my ex chose to believe her lies over my truth, but once exposed, they both came crawling back desperate. Be me, 29-year-old Tyler. Work as electrical project supervisor for mid-sized construction company in Tampa. Make decent money, not rich, but comfortable. Married to Jessica, 28, for 4 years now. Together for 6 years, total. Met through mutual friends at college party. She was studying marketing, I was in business management. Jessica's great, smart, hard-working. We split everything 50-50. Been saving up to buy a house, maybe start a family. Both pretty laid-back people who don't need fancy stuff to be happy. Drive reliable cars, live in decent apartment. Biggest splurge is probably our annual camping trip to the Smokies. But this story isn't about Jessica. It's about her younger sister Brianna, 24 years old, and without a doubt the most toxic, entitled, gold-digging person I've ever had the misfortune of knowing. Let me paint you a picture of Brianna. This woman has never held a real job in her entire adult life. And I mean never. She's worked at a few retail stores and restaurants. Always gets fired within weeks, either showing up late, arguing with customers, or just not showing up at all. Her longest employment streak was 5 weeks at a Dunkin' Donuts. Only lasted that long because the manager had a crush on her. Instead of working like a normal human being, Brianna spends her days crafting the perfect Instagram posts. She has maybe 900 followers, half of them probably bots, swiping through dating apps looking for her Prince Charming, aka any guy making 6 figures who's dumb enough to fall for her act. This girl literally has entrepreneur and influencer in her Instagram bio. Her business is selling overpriced face masks from some MLM pyramid scheme. I've never seen her make a single sale, but she posts about her empire constantly. It's honestly pathetic. Brianna still lives with their parents at 24 years old. Rent-free, obviously. She drives a 2018 Honda Civic that Daddy bought her. But she tells people it's just temporary, until she gets her dream car. Apparently a white Mercedes, because that's what all the Instagram influencers drive. Her wardrobe is entirely fake designer. I'm talking obvious knockoff Coach bags that probably cost $35 on Wish. Louis Vuitton shoes that are missing half the letters. Michael Kors purses from outlet malls that she pretends are full price. She posts photos of this junk with captions like, "Blessed" and "Living my best life." Like she's some kind of socialite instead of an unemployed mooch. The family dynamic is completely fucked. Brianna is clearly the golden child who can do no wrong, while Jessica is the responsible one, expected to clean up everyone's messes. During family dinners, Brianna dominates every conversation. If Jessica starts talking about work or anything interesting, Brianna will literally interrupt her mid-sentence to talk about some guy she met on Tinder or complain about how hard it is to be an influencer. Their mom always takes Brianna's side too. Like when Brianna makes snide comments about Jessica's clothes being too corporate or her lifestyle being boring. Their mom will laugh and say, "Oh, you know Brianna, she's just being honest." Or, "She has such great fashion sense." I've watched Jessica's face during these moments. There's always this flash of hurt, but she never fights back. She just takes it, because that's what she's been trained to do her whole life. The first major red flag should have been at Jessica's birthday dinner 3 years ago. We went to this nice steakhouse. Nothing crazy expensive, but definitely not cheap. The whole family was there, celebrating Jessica's promotion at work. Instead of congratulating her sister, Brianna spent the entire dinner complaining about how the restaurant was too dark for good Instagram photos, asking our waiter if he knew any single doctors or lawyers. Then when the bill came, Brianna just sat there scrolling her phone while everyone else reached for their wallets. Her dad ended up paying for her $75 meal without even blinking. Jessica later told me this was completely normal. Brianna never pays for anything because she doesn't have money right now, but somehow always has cash for new makeup and fake nails. The first time I met Brianna at a family barbecue, I knew immediately that she was trouble. Jessica had told her family I was a project supervisor in electrical construction. Apparently, Brianna heard construction and thought I was either broke or secretly loaded. Her first question to me wasn't "nice to meet you" or anything a normal person would say. She straight up asked, "So like what kind of electrical work do you do? Houses or like bigger stuff?" When I explained that I supervise commercial projects like office buildings and retail spaces, I could see the wheels turning in her head. "Oh, so you must work with a lot of contractors and suppliers," she said, leaning in way too close. "That must be really good money, right? Like 6 figures." Jessica looked mortified, but didn't say anything. I just gave a vague answer about it being decent work. But Brianna kept pushing throughout the entire barbecue. She kept asking invasive questions about my truck, my apartment, whether I had savings, if I was planning to buy a house soon. It was like being interrogated by the world's most obvious gold digger. The worst part was how she talked about her own career. She spent 20 minutes telling me about her MLM business, how she was going to be financially free within 3 years. She showed me her Instagram account and talked about all her brand partnerships. I looked later. She had maybe 2 posts promoting random garbage with like 12 likes each. I only date guys who understand entrepreneurship, she said while giving me this weird, flirty look. Most guys are intimidated by successful women like me. I almost choked on my burger. This unemployed 22-year-old living with mommy and daddy thought she was too successful for most men. The delusion was incredible. For the next couple years, I only saw Brianna at major holidays and family events, which was perfectly fine with me. But I started noticing weird patterns. She'd always find excuses to sit near me at dinner tables. She'd ask Jessica about my work schedule and when I'd be at family events. During group photos, she'd somehow always end up standing next to me. The comments were subtle but definitely inappropriate. Things like, "Jessica's so lucky to have found a guy with such a stable job," while staring directly at me. Or, "I wish I could find a man who works as hard as you do," with this lingering eye contact that made my skin crawl. Jessica either didn't notice or chose to ignore it. Whenever I brought up Brianna's weird behavior, Jessica would just say I was overthinking things, or that Brianna was just being friendly because she didn't have many friends. No shit, she doesn't have friends. Who wants to hang around someone that toxic? Last spring, I got promoted to senior electrical project supervisor with a pretty significant raise. Jessica and I were psyched because it meant we could finally start seriously looking at houses. We celebrated by upgrading my old Ford F-150 to a new 2024 Chevy Colorado. Nothing too flashy, but definitely nicer than what I'd been driving. The first family gathering after the promotion was Jessica's mom's birthday dinner. Brianna showed up in some ridiculous outfit that was basically a dress pretending to be a shirt. She immediately zeroed in on the new truck. "Oh my God, is this yours?" she squealed, running her hands along the hood like she was caressing a lover. "This must have cost like $55,000. It didn't cost anywhere near that much, but I just said it was a work upgrade. Big mistake. That gave her an opening to start asking about the promotion. How much the raise was, whether I got stock options, if I was looking at buying a house soon. She was like a bloodhound sniffing out money. "You know," she said while posing for selfies with my truck, "successful men like you deserve someone who understands ambition. Not everyone can handle dating someone with real money." She said this loud enough for Jessica to hear. I saw Jessica's face tighten, but instead of telling her sister to back off, Jessica just changed the subject. That should have been another red flag. Jessica was already making excuses for Brianna's shitty behavior. After that dinner, Brianna's social media stalking went into overdrive. She started following me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, even TikTok, which I barely use. Every time I'd decline her follow requests, she'd send new ones within days. My LinkedIn profile views went through the roof because she was checking it constantly. Then she escalated to showing up at my work site. The first time she claimed she was driving by and saw my truck. My current project is a new office complex, about 35 minutes from anywhere she'd have business being. So that was obviously bullshit. "I brought you coffee," she said, holding up a Starbucks cup, like it was some grand gesture. "Thought you might need some energy for all that hard work." She was wearing this low-cut top and kept leaning over my truck's tailgate while we talked, making sure I had a clear view down her shirt. She asked what time I usually wrapped up work, if I ever needed help with administrative stuff, whether I ever got lonely working such long hours. The whole interaction felt like a bad porn setup. I politely declined the coffee and told her I needed to get back to work, but she lingered for another 15 minutes asking about the project, how many guys I supervised, what my daily schedule looked like. Finally, she left, but not before saying, "You work so hard, you should let someone take care of you sometime." When I told Jessica about it that night, she brushed it off. Brianna's been driving around a lot lately, looking for a new job. She probably really was just passing by. Yeah, right, looking for a job. The girl who's never kept a job longer than 2 months is suddenly career-focused enough to be driving around industrial areas. But I didn't want to start a fight, so I let it go. 2 weeks later, Brianna pulled the same stunt. This time, she brought lunch from some expensive sandwich place downtown, claiming she thought I might be hungry. The sandwich probably cost $22, which for someone with no income is a pretty big investment, unless you're expecting a return. You know, she said while unwrapping the sandwich like it was a Christmas present, Jessica is so lucky to have a man who provides for her. Not all women appreciate that kind of security. When I asked her what she meant by that, she just smiled and said, "Oh, nothing. I just think some people don't realize what they have." But I noticed these things. The implication was clear. She was hinting that Jessica didn't appreciate me enough and that she would be different. I told her firmly that I was busy and didn't have time for lunch. But she kept insisting, acting all pouty like, "But I drove all this way and I'm hungry too. We could eat together." I finally had to be blunt and tell her I wasn't interested in having lunch with her, period. She got this weird look on her face like she couldn't believe I was rejecting her amazing offer, rolled her eyes and left in a huff. That night, I told Jessica the whole story, emphasizing how inappropriate and persistent Brianna had been. Jessica's response floored me. "She's probably just trying to butter you up, so you'll convince me to let her come on our vacation this summer." Apparently, Brianna had been begging Jessica to let her tag along on our planned trip to Yellowstone. Jessica had said no because we wanted it to be just us, and also because the idea of spending a week in a tent with Brianna sounded like actual hell. But Jessica thought that's why Brianna was suddenly being so nice to me. "She doesn't have any money for her own vacation," Jessica explained. "She's probably hoping if she's sweet to you, you'll feel bad for her and say she can come with us." I gave Jessica a serious look and said, "That's not what this is about. She's flirting with me, and it's getting worse." Jessica laughed it off. "Trust me, Brianna has her sights set way higher than an electrical supervisor. She's looking for doctors and lawyers, remember? You're not rich enough for her standards." That comment stung more than I wanted to admit, but I let it slide. Jessica was probably right. Brianna was always talking about finding a millionaire husband, but my gut was telling me something else was going on. 2 months ago, Jessica had to travel to Atlanta for a week-long marketing conference. She goes every year for continuing education credits. I was looking forward to a week of peace and quiet. Order some pizza, catch up on Netflix, maybe work on some projects around the apartment. On Thursday night, around 9:15 p.m., I was on the couch in my gym shorts and a t-shirt, just relaxing after a long day supervising wire installations. When the doorbell rang, I figured it was a delivery driver or maybe our upstairs neighbor who sometimes locks himself out. I made the catastrophic mistake of opening the door without checking the peephole first. Brianna was standing there in this tight black dress that barely covered her ass. Full makeup, like she was going to a club, and a huge fake smile. She was holding a bag of takeout from some expensive Italian place downtown. "Surprise," she said, pushing past me into my apartment before I could react. "I brought dinner. I figured you must be starving eating bachelor food all week." I was completely caught off guard. "Brianna, what the hell are you doing here? Jessica's at her conference." "I know, silly," she said, already unpacking food containers on my kitchen counter like she owned the place. "That's why I'm here. I felt bad thinking about you all alone, eating ramen noodles or whatever guys eat when their wives aren't around." She'd brought enough food for like 6 people. Chicken parmigiana, fettuccine alfredo, garlic bread, some fancy Caesar salad. This stuff probably cost $95, which again for someone with no income is a major expense. "Look, this is really inappropriate," I said firmly. "Jessica's not here, and you shouldn't be either. I think you should leave." Brianna ignored me completely and started setting up the food on my coffee table. "Oh, come on, don't be such a prude. I'm just being nice. We're family, right?" She sat down on my couch and patted the cushion next to her. "Come eat with me. I got your favorite. Jessica told me you love Italian food." The fact that she had asked Jessica about my food preferences was creepy enough. But I stayed standing. "I'm not hungry. You need to take this food and go." That's when her mask started slipping. She gave me this look like she couldn't believe I was rejecting her generous offer. "Seriously? I spent my own money on this expensive dinner, and you won't even sit down with me. I didn't ask you to buy dinner. I don't want you here." She stood up and moved closer to me, close enough that I could smell her overpowering perfume. "You know what your problem is? You're too loyal to my sister. She doesn't appreciate what she has." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Jessica takes you for granted," Brianna said, reaching out to touch my arm. "She's always working, always focused on her career. When's the last time she made you feel special? When's the last time she really took care of you?" I stepped back from her touch. "My marriage is none of your business. I'm just saying, she continued moving closer again. Some women know how to treat a man properly. Some women understand that a hard-working guy like you deserves more attention. The implication was crystal clear. I pointed toward the door. Get out now. Instead of leaving, she actually moved even closer and put her hand on my chest. Why are you fighting this? I see how you look at me at family dinners. I know you've thought about it. I've never looked at you any way except annoyed. Get your hands off me. Come on, she whispered, pressing herself against me. Jessica's 1,000 miles away. Nobody has to know. I can give you things she can't. That's when I completely lost my shit. I grabbed her wrist and yanked her hand off my chest. Are you out of your fucking mind? Get the hell out of my house right now. She started laughing like this was all some big joke. Relax, I'm just having some fun with you. God, you're so uptight. But then her expression changed, and she got this predatory look in her eyes that made my stomach turn. Although we are all alone, and I did spend a lot of money on this dinner, don't you think you owe me something? I marched to the front door and threw it open. Get out. Get the fuck out of my apartment right now. As she was gathering up her purse and the stupid takeout containers, she turned back with this smug smile. You know where to find me when you get tired of playing house with my boring sister. I'll be waiting. I slammed the door so hard the frame shook and immediately tried calling Jessica. It was past 11 p.m. in Atlanta, so she didn't answer. I left a voicemail asking her to call me back ASAP, but I didn't want to explain the whole situation in a message. I spent the entire night trying to reach Jessica, kicking myself for not recording the conversation with Brianna. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how perfectly Brianna had orchestrated the whole thing. She waited until Jessica was out of town, showed up at night when it would be just us, brought expensive food to make it look like I'd invited her over. If I hadn't rejected her advances, she probably would have tried to seduce me, and then held it over my head forever. I finally got through to Jessica the next morning, but before I could even start explaining what happened, she was absolutely hysterical. How could you do this to my sister? She's devastated. She was just trying to be nice to you. My blood went cold. Jessica, what are you talking about? Brianna called me, crying at 1 a.m. She told me everything that happened. Turns out, Brianna had called Jessica just an hour after leaving my apartment, with a completely fabricated story. According to Brianna's version, she had brought me dinner as a friendly gesture, because she felt bad that I was alone all week. But when she got to the apartment, I answered the door acting strange and invited her in. Brianna claimed that I had been complaining about Jessica being gone all the time for work, and how lonely I was. She said I kept trying to get her to sit closer to me on the couch, and that I was making inappropriate comments about her dress. Then supposedly I grabbed her hand and tried to pull her toward the bedroom, saying something like, Jessica doesn't have to know. According to this story, Brianna had to fight me off and threaten to scream before I finally let her leave. She told Jessica she was traumatized and scared, and that she'd never felt so uncomfortable in her life. The whole story was complete fiction, but Brianna sold it with Academy Award-worthy performance, complete with tears and dramatic details about how shocked she was that I would betray Jessica like that. She's my sister, Jessica screamed through the phone. How could you try to fuck my own sister? I tried to stay calm and explain what really happened, but Jessica wasn't having it. Every time I tried to tell my side, she'd cut me off with, Brianna would never lie about something like this. Or, why would she make up such a horrible story? Jessica, think about this logically, I said. Why would I suddenly make a move on Brianna after years of barely tolerating her? You know how I feel about her? This doesn't make any sense. Her response destroyed me. I don't know. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a while and finally acted on it. She is prettier than me, and she doesn't work 60 hours a week. I was speechless. My wife of 4 years actually believed I would cheat on her with her unemployed gold-digging sister who I'd never shown the slightest interest in. You really think I'm capable of that? I asked. I don't know what to think anymore, she said coldly. Brianna was sobbing. She said you were like a different person. When Jessica got back from Atlanta 3 days later, she went straight to her parents' house instead of coming home. She wouldn't answer my calls and only responded to texts with things like, I need time to process this, and I can't look at you right now. The few times I did manage to get her on the phone over the next 2 weeks, she was ice cold. Brianna had apparently told their parents too, so now the entire family was treating me like a sexual predator. Jessica kept saying things like, my whole family is disgusted, and my dad wants to come over and beat the shit out of you. I reminded Jessica of all the times I told her about Brianna's inappropriate behavior, The constant social media stalking, the surprise visits to my work site, the obvious flirting at family dinners. But Jessica dismissed everything. "That's just how Brianna is," she said. "She's friendly with everyone. You're the one who misinterpreted it as something sexual. So, you think I've been lying about her behavior for months. I think you convinced yourself that she was interested in you. And then when you made a move, she rejected you. So now you're trying to make her look like the bad guy." That's when I knew there was no coming back from this. Jessica didn't just believe Brianna's lies. She had constructed an entire narrative where I was some kind of predator, who had been fantasizing about her sister for months. After 3 weeks of this, I decided to make one final attempt at reasoning with Jessica. I drove to her parents' house to try to have a face-to-face conversation. Without Brianna there poisoning the well. Big mistake. The moment Jessica's dad opened the door, he started screaming about how I wasn't welcome there and how I should be ashamed of myself. Jessica's mom was standing behind him with her arms crossed, giving me looks like I was some kind of disease. "You've got some nerve showing up here," her dad said, "after what you did to Brianna." "I didn't do anything to Brianna," I said firmly. "She lied to all of you." Jessica appeared at the door, looking at me like I was a complete stranger. "What do you want?" "I want to talk to my wife without her family acting like I'm a criminal." "I have nothing to say to you," she said coldly. "Do you trust me at all?" I asked her directly. "After 6 years together, do you believe I'm capable of what Brianna accused me of?" Jessica stared at me for a long moment, then said, "I don't know who you are anymore." That was it. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "Fine. If you want to believe your lying, manipulative sister over your own husband, then you can have her. I'm done with all of you." I walked away from that house knowing my marriage was over. The next week, I contacted a divorce lawyer and filed papers citing irreconcilable differences. When Jessica got served, she sent me a long text about how I was running away, instead of taking responsibility and how she never thought I was capable of something like this. I didn't respond. My lawyer handled all communication from that point forward. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. While the divorce was being finalized, something incredible happened at work. The construction company I work for got bought out by a massive national firm. As part of the acquisition, all senior staff got retention bonuses based on our project portfolios and years of service. My bonus was $215,000 after taxes. Combined with my savings and the equity I'd built up, I suddenly had almost $280,000 in liquid assets. Not millionaire money, but definitely enough to completely change my lifestyle. I didn't tell anyone about the windfall except my lawyer and my accountant. I quietly bought a small house in a nice neighborhood, paid cash, upgraded to a brand new F-250, also paid cash, and started looking into some investment opportunities. The divorce moved quickly since we didn't have kids. And I didn't fight Jessica on splitting our previous assets 50-50. She got half of our old savings account and the Colorado. I kept my tools and work equipment. She had no idea about the retention bonus since it happened after we separated. During the divorce proceedings, I heard through mutual friends that the family had completely rallied around Brianna, like she was some kind of hero who saved Jessica from a cheating husband. Brianna was apparently milking the attention for all it was worth, posting vague social media messages about protecting the people you love and standing up to toxic men. Meanwhile, Jessica was struggling. Her marketing firm had gone through layoffs, and while she kept her job, she'd lost her seniority and taken a pay cut. She was living in a tiny studio apartment across town and driving the Colorado with 190,000 miles on it because she couldn't afford anything better. But Brianna was still living with mommy and daddy, still unemployed, still posting thirst traps on Instagram, and swiping through dating apps looking for her meal ticket. About 10 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Jessica, and she was crying. "Please don't hang up," she said through the tears. "I know I don't deserve to talk to you, but I need to tell you something." I stayed on the line curious about what could possibly make her call me. After almost a year of no contact, "I found out the truth about Brianna," she said, "about what really happened that night." Turns out Brianna had finally found her sugar daddy, a 48-year-old divorced real estate investor named Gary, who owned a few rental properties around Tampa. Gary wasn't exactly the billionaire of Brianna's dreams, but he had money and was stupid enough to fall for her act. Brianna immediately moved in with Gary and started posting all over social media about her amazing boyfriend and their luxury lifestyle. The problem was Gary's idea of luxury was a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs and dinner at chain restaurants, not exactly the millionaire lifestyle Brianna had been promising herself for years. But here's where it gets interesting. Once Brianna locked down Gary, she completely turned on her family. She told their parents they were embarrassing and beneath her now, and that she couldn't be associated with poor people anymore. She stopped coming to family events and blocked Jessica on all social media. When their dad had chest pains and had to go to the ER, thankfully it was just anxiety, not a heart attack. Brianna refused to come to the hospital. Because she was too busy with Gary, Jessica called her, crying, begging her to at least call their dad. And Brianna told her, "I can't be bothered with your family drama anymore." That's when Jessica started seeing Brianna's true colors. But the real revelation came a few weeks later. Jessica was at a coffee shop near her apartment when she overheard Brianna talking to one of her equally trashy friends at the next table. Jessica recognized the voice and looked over to see Brianna bragging about how she'd gotten rid of Jessica's husband. "I totally played the victim," Brianna was saying with a laugh. "Told Jessica that her loser husband tried to assault me. She ate it up completely. I mean, who was she going to believe? Her loving sister or some electrical worker?" Jessica sat there in shock as Brianna continued describing how she deliberately targeted me because she was jealous of Jessica's stable relationship and comfortable life. She admitted that she'd been trying to seduce me for months, and when I rejected her, she decided to destroy my marriage out of spite. "The best part," Brianna said, "is that now Jessica's broke and miserable, and I'm living with a guy who spoils me. She deserved it for always acting like she was better than me." Jessica recorded the rest of the conversation on her phone before Brianna noticed her and stormed out. "I am so sorry," Jessica sobbed through the phone. "I should have believed you. I should have trusted my own husband over her. I've ruined everything." I listened to the recording she sent me. Hearing Brianna laugh about destroying my marriage was infuriating, but also vindicating. Finally, I had proof of what I'd known all along. "What do you want from me, Jessica?" I asked when she finished apologizing. "I know this is probably impossible," she said, "but I was hoping maybe we could try to work things out. I know I don't deserve it, but I love you and I miss you. And I realize now that I made the biggest mistake of my life." I let her talk for a few more minutes about how sorry she was and how she wanted to rebuild our relationship. Then I delivered the news. "Jessica, I appreciate the apology, but that ship has sailed. I'm not interested in getting back together." She started crying harder. "Please just think about it. We were good together. We could be good again." "No, we can't. You chose her over me. You believed the worst possible thing about me with zero evidence. That's not something I can just forgive and forget. But I know the truth now. I'll make it up to you. I promise." That's when I decided to twist the knife a little. "You want to know the funny part, Jessica? I'm doing better now than I ever was when we were married. The divorce was the best thing that ever happened to me." "What do you mean?" I told her about the retention bonus, the new house, the financial security I now had. I could hear her sharp intake of breath as she realized what she'd given up. You're rich now. I'm comfortable, more comfortable than I ever would have been, supporting you and helping out your toxic family for the rest of my life." There was a long silence. "I know you probably hate me," she finally said, "but I'm in a really bad place financially. I lost my benefits when they restructured at work and my rent went up. And I can barely afford groceries. I was wondering if maybe you could help me out just until I get back on my feet." I almost burst out laughing. The audacity was incredible. "How much do you need?" I asked just to see how far she'd go. "Maybe $3,500. I know it's a lot to ask, but I don't have anyone else. My parents are stretched thin with Dad's medical bills, and Brianna won't even talk to me anymore. Jessica, I probably spend $3,500 a month just on truck payments and house maintenance. That's not even real money to me anymore." Her voice got hopeful. "So you'll help me?" "Absolutely not." The silence stretched on for almost a minute. "But why, if it's not that much money to you?" "Because you chose Brianna over me. You destroyed our marriage based on her lies. Now you can live with the consequences of that choice." "That's not fair," she said, her voice getting angry. "I made a mistake, but I'm trying to make it right." "No, you're trying to get money from me because your life sucks now. There's a difference." I hung up and blocked her number. But the story doesn't end there. About 2 weeks later, I got another call from an unknown number. This time it was Brianna. Apparently Gary had caught her cheating with some 26-year-old personal trainer from her gym. and kicked her out. She was back living with her parents, but their dad's medical bills had drained their savings, and they were struggling to keep up with the mortgage payments. "I know we've had our differences," Brianna said in this fake, sweet voice that made my skin crawl, "but I'm hoping we can put that behind us. Jessica told me about your success. I was wondering if maybe you'd be willing to help out the family during this difficult time." The sheer audacity of this woman calling me for money after destroying my marriage was unbelievable. "And help out how?" I asked, curious to see how far she'd go. "Well, Mom and Dad are behind on the mortgage and there's the medical bills. And I'm looking for work, but it's hard to find something that pays enough." She rattled off a sob story that probably added up to about $6,000 a month in expenses. "That's a lot of money, Brianna." "I know, but you're doing so well now, and we're still family in a way. And I was thinking maybe we could work out some kind of arrangement." "What kind of arrangement?" Her voice got lower and more sultry. "Well, you're single now, and I'm single again. And maybe we could help each other out. I could show you how grateful I am for your generosity. This bitch was literally offering to prostitute herself to me for money after destroying my marriage. The level of shamelessness was actually impressive." "That's an interesting offer, Brianna. I knew you'd understand. You always seemed like a smart man who knows a good deal when he sees one." "Here's my counteroffer," I said. "I want you to call Jessica right now and put her on speakerphone. Then I want you to admit that you lied about everything. Tell her exactly what you did and why you did it. Admit that you tried to seduce me, and when I rejected you, you made up that whole story to destroy my marriage." There was a long pause. "I can't do that." "Then we have nothing to discuss." Wait, she said quickly. "Maybe we don't need to involve Jessica. Maybe this can just be between us. How much money are we talking about here?" I could be very, very grateful. The kind of grateful that would make it worth your while. I let her dig herself deeper for a few more minutes, describing in graphic detail what she was willing to do for financial support. Then I dropped the hammer. "Brianna, I wouldn't give you a penny if you were the last woman on earth. You're a lying, manipulative whore who destroyed my marriage. And now you want to prostitute yourself to me for money. Do you have any idea how pathetic that is?" "But I need help," she whined. "I don't have anywhere else to go." "Should have thought about that before you decided to play games with people's lives. Maybe next time you'll think twice before falsely accusing someone of sexual assault. That's not what I did." "That's exactly what you did, and we both know it. I hope you and your family lose everything. And I hope you end up exactly where you deserve to be, living in some shitty trailer park, giving handjobs for grocery money." I hung up and immediately blocked that number too. But apparently Brianna wasn't done. Over the next few weeks, she tried calling from different numbers, had friends and family members reach out to me, even showed up at my work site once more. Security escorted her off the property and told her she'd be arrested for trespassing if she came back. The last I heard, she was working at some strip club downtown, trying to make enough money to help her parents keep their house. Jessica never contacted me again after I refused to help her financially. Last update I got from mutual friends was that she'd moved back in with her parents and was working 2 part-time jobs just to make ends meet. Meanwhile, I'm living my best life in my paid-off house, with my paid-off truck and a growing investment portfolio. Sometimes I drive past their old neighborhood just to remind myself how much better off I am without that toxic family in my life. The moral of the story: never stick your dick in crazy, and never trust a gold digger. No matter how much your wife insists, she's just being friendly.